And the beloved French Baybays, how can we ever tire of them? There's very few I've ever seen that I didn't love. I love them all for different reasons, some of them for their costumes, some for their exquisite faces, some because they're just unusual or have a mechanical or not mechanical, but a construction feature, which is wonderful. We have a great selection in our upcoming auction, but I just brought out a couple here that are my kind of personal favorites for one reason or another, which I will detail to you. Well, as you all know, the little dolls are always popular, and particularly so these times when so much of us have been spending so much time at home, and we can always manage to find a space to tuck another little one in. So here we have 5 of the little ones from this upcoming auction, and they are absolute dandies. Let's start over here on the right. We have, in this standing in the background here, I'm going to hold her up for a moment so you can see her clearly. We have a wonderful little Steiner of the Series C, and she has, which I just find so absolutely amazing. Wait, I'm going to bring it back over here so I can manipulate it better. She has the wire lever eyes, tiny little eyes, and they operate from the wire lever right here at the back of the head. Did you see a little child playing with this doll? And look, eyes open and close from the wire lever. Just absolutely wonderful. And I don't know how many of you realize that Steiner actually had those eyes made specifically for him, and his name appears on the back of the eyes. They're flat-backed eyes, and it has J. Steiner on the back. So here, do you have your eyes open? Okay. Look at that little face. She has brown eyes, which are harder to find, and a wonderful smug little expression, and her original Steiner body. Beautiful antique shoes, and her wonderful little costume all the way around. She's a sweetheart. Steiner always had this very different way of painting the doll's eyes, which is almost like a fringe on the eyebrows, rather, which like almost a fringe effect, which I've always find most appealing. I stuck these 2 little chairs in. I told you there's great furniture in this auction, and I like this pair of chairs so much because this is a size that you virtually never find. It's not dollhouse size, and it's not the slightly larger, like 7-inch height chair that they sold for so many of the French Baybys, but here's a tiny little petite pair, and just great condition with the tufted silk seats. Now, standing next to her, we had another Steiner, and this is a figure A, and she's notable because she has this absolutely luminous ebony black complexion, very, very beautiful, with the original Steiner body as well, and the original finish on it that matches her facial complexion perfectly. So that's a sweet, sweet little doll. And she comes with, to make it even better, look what she does. She owns this white fur cat and the white fur boar's-eye dog in a rare little tiny size that you seldom find that are perfectly scaled for her. So that's kind of a fun little lot in the auction that you'll enjoy. Now on this side, oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite dolls. We've sold it before from the Musée de la Paris in Paris. She was one of their featured dolls when we closed that museum. And she has the marking on the back of the head that's known as the cartouche mark. It's actually in big block letters, the name Jamel enclosed in a banner. It's a very, very early doll, and I would say in all of our years, we probably have not had more than 3 or 4 of the Cartouchemos. An extremely rare doll, and particularly to find in this tiny, tiny little size, all original. And I left her little dress unsnapped here so I could peel it back and you could see tucked underneath, can you see it there? Her original little muslin chemise. So this doll is so perfect and original. She has the hairband, which is matching the ribbon on her chemise, and over that she has the actual hair comb, which was on the head of many, many of the early Baybays. Her original lamb's wool wig and her little original shoes that again have the aqua coloring that matched her chemise. A wonderful dress. Let me turn it around so you can see her all the way around. The Cartouchemo have these wonderful early eyes, very, very strong threading, spiral threading in the eyes, which is a really great feature. And it must have been very hard to perfect it because you find it on so few of them that it must have been a real luxury feature to have. Next to her, oh my, A.T., Andre Tullier. Early model Baybay by Tullier with the kid body, the gusset jointed kid body. This doll is in near mint condition, if there is such a thing to be said. Absolutely perfect. The body is so sturdy, so clean, has perfect bisque hands, the original bisque hands. It is the bisque head on the bisque shoulder plate, so the head can pivot from side to side. And look at those eyes. They just ping right out. Their color is so brilliant and good. And now, the piece de resistance, look at the bottom of her shoes. And are you seeing the incised AT, the initials AT? She is wearing her original shoes. This is a little doll that you just don't find. This is from the Peggys Collection, one of the highlights of Peggys Collection, which is really, really a fine piece. And then also from Peggys Collection, we have this wonderful early Premier Jamel with a very, again, very dramatic, large eyes. I just want to take a look at her 1 second. Yeah, and look at the spiral threading on these eyes. This again is the Premier Jamel, and she has her all original body. She has wonderful costume, wonderful shoes. These dolls are all 10 to 11 inches tall. So very, very rare petite sizes on these dolls, which is so to be sought after and desired. And you can always fit another one in your house, can't you? Just think of a little room filled with those, and you could have them all playing and doing things. Wow. Now, we'll stick with Jamel for a minute, because this is one of the beautiful dolls that Jamel made, and this is his Paris Baybay. In about 1890, Jamel's past foreman, Daniel, left him and formed his own company and produced dolls that were, for all intents and purposes, duplicates of the ones that he had been producing for Jamel. Well, times don't change. People's anger doesn't change. Jamel wasn't happy about this. He said, hey, those are my ideas, my designs. You worked here, you stole them. You can't do that. So he sued Daniel, and Jamel won. So he won the rights to the use of the name Paris Baybay, which is what Daniel had been using for his doll. And he immediately, Emile Jamel, immediately produced his own Paris Baybay. And he gave it this very, very distinctive facial model. And this facial model, many people believe, is the beginning of the Jamel 200 character series, because it is almost a duplicate to one of them. And it's so different from anything else he had done. It's so different from, well, by the time 1892 came, 95% or more of the production that Jamel was doing was the Tep model, the classic Tep model. And this is a totally different face. So a lot of people say, okay, this doll was the beginning of the very rare 200 character series. And I will tell you, this doll is absolutely stunning. She is a really exquisite doll. This, again, is from the Peggys Collection. Very, very beautiful doll. Now, on the other side, we have Gautier, who had begun making dolls back in 1860 and had made early porcelain, early bisque fashion, poupée, and then made them for himself with his own insignia on them, and then had a big porcelain company and made them for so many other firms as well. But eventually started to make his own Baybay with his signature mark on it. And when you can find an early Baybay with the block letter markings, so not in the banner, just big block letters like a child would make it when they started to learn how to write, if they still do, I don't know. That would be on the back of his head, F period, G period, with the size in between. And this is an example of one of the early Gautier Baybays. And again, look at those eyes. To me, it's always one of the notable things you want to look for in the Baybay is not only the quality of the bisque, the subtle painting of complexion, which can make all the difference in the world, but the eyes. And then how are the eyes dramatized? How are they framed, in other words? Look at this girl with those eyes and very, very thick dark eyeliner encircling them, kind of like a great frame on a picture, just making those eyes pop out all the more. She has her original body, which you always want to find, and she is wearing a very, very lovely costume. So a beautiful early Gautier Baybay. And Steiner, I like to say, look at this one, always had a kick out of making dolls. That's a bad pun. But this is one of the hard models to find. This is the Series A by Steiner. And what's really kind of nice about this is not only that absolutely charming face with great kind of inquisitive, intelligent expression, but very happy expression. And fine, fine quality bisque, but it does have its original body. It has its original wig. I'll turn it around so you can see the wig and the costume all the way around. It has its original costume. It's a great doll. Little tiny piquant smile and wonderful early shoes. I have to take a moment to do my sermon once again. When you buy dolls, whether from us or anyone, and they have an original costume, I know that many of you want to make a doll your own, and you see a different vision of a doll, and you want to put a different costume on it, and that's okay. They were playthings. But what you need to do is take the other costume and don't just put it on another doll. You need to put it in tissue, and you need to label where it came from if it was the original costume on that doll, so that someday it can be reunited and the history of the doll can remain intact for next generations, because after all, for the time we have the dolls, we're just their keeper. We never own the dolls, they own us. We are the keeper of the dolls only. And then, leading the band, the stunning EJA model by Jamel. One of his first dolls that really bore his name, EJ, the A probably insignia, either that it was what he considered A, his top model, or A, the first of a series. But they came in only two different sizes, both of them in large, impressive sizes, and notable for the long-cheeked type of look. And this one wearing a wonderful antique costume that might be original to him. I mean, he does look like he's leading the band. Jamel did several, we've had several of them over the years that were actually dressed for a particular exhibition wearing this type of costume, so this may well have been, although we don't have any documentation to prove that so. The EJA is very, very rare, and this is a particularly desirable doll. And then, of course, our beloved Brew Baby. And we have several of them in this auction, and I've chosen two to show you here today. This one is, both of them have what is known as, when I talked about the hooray, I said she has the face. Well, both of these brews have the face. Now, even having said that, I know I could show them to any one of you, and I would say, which is your favorite? And you would choose one of them over the other. Why is that? Why does a particular doll speak to us when another one, to an average eye, it's the same doll? No, they never are. They all have their own presence, their own personality, their own expression. And I think that's just great. That's wonderful. It's as it should be. So here's two wonderful opportunities of the early Jamels. And this particular one is wearing her original costume, including her signed Brew shoes. Signed Brew in Paris. I don't know if I can, let me tip her up a little so the camera can get that. And they both have perfect bisque hands. And if I turn her to the side, I think you can see the depth of her eyes. And when you look at this doll, I'm looking at her now, and I mean, those eyes just, again, they have the pop out. Collectors always want to know, does the doll have the little tongue tip between the lips? And both of these dolls do. I want to caution you about one thing. the model tongue tip is subjective. One person might see it, another person would say, I don't know what you're talking about. So you need to look closely at the faces to see if the tongue tip is pronounced enough to satisfy your desire to have that. It was not something that Brew advertised and said every doll with a tongue tip. This is something that collectors have started to make their mantra, and you need to decide how you feel about this particular thing. In my opinion, both of these dolls have it, and again have those really perfect, beautiful bisque hands. Very, very lovely examples of the Brew Baby. And I would like to now tell you that this is only a fraction of the dolls we have coming up. I want to show you something else. I debated when to show you, but I think I'm going to show you with this group of dolls so we can have this discussion. Hold on one second. Take a look at me. You saw my little cousin, the little tiny AT below. And if you see all of Theriault's auctions, you saw my sister AT, not my sister, but a similar, almost identical AT sold about a month ago. And here I am. And I have a problem. I have a hairline in my forehead. So my question is, and I have lovely hands. I have perfect bisque hands. I have a really sturdy, almost mint kid body. I have a perfect shoulder plate. I have a beautiful complexion. And I don't know if the camera will be able to see it. You have to look very closely. It's like right here, and it's going into the eyebrow. So see if you can see that. I have this little problem, this little mark, this little hairline on my forehead. Now, you're a collector. I don't think there's any of you that will deny I am absolutely beautiful. Look at me. So I have two questions for you. One, will you buy me? Two, what would you pay? These are questions you have to decide for yourself. We've had entire seminars and discussions on this. In fact, Stuart and I are going to be doing a seminar in UFDC convention this summer, and where we're going to have an informal conversation back and forth with people and probably argue with each other about different opinions we have on this kind of subject. And this is a discussion I've had with collectors all the time too. What works for you? For example, this is, if perfect, like a $40,000 doll. But she's not perfect. And you know that you will probably never afford a $40,000 doll, but you love her. So ask yourself, would I buy this? What would my price range be? Would I be happy to have her because she's stunning? She's an important doll. Am I just being a snob saying I would never have a doll with a hairline? Or am I being an important historian by saying, yes, I'll buy her. That hairline's not going to do any damage to the doll. It's under her wig. I'm not seeing it. I love it, and I can afford it at the price I'll buy it for. I have no answer for you because every collector is different. I just think the issues should be raised. And I know when I started when I started cataloging dolls and researching and working with dolls, that was a mantra that collectors had. The first thing you would see a beautiful doll, the question you would have is, well, where's her damage? Is there any damage? And my comment to all of you as collectors should be always, the first question you have about a doll is, why is she special? What makes her special? If you decide she's special and you decide you love her and you have all of these wonderful things you know about her, then you can say, okay, well, are there things, I do want to own her. What do I need to know about this doll that will impact the price that I will pay? That's my opinion. You can have a different opinion, and that's okay too. That's why collecting is a lot of fun. So that was my discussion point, and I'm glad we had it. Now we're going to look at some great German bisque dolls. And by the way, everything else here is perfect. I'm the only oddball, and I want somebody to love me because I deserve to be loved. I'm beautiful. Not me, the doll.